morning and welcome to Kilshannig Cemetery. We see the sign there. And it was also known as locally as Newbury Cemetery because this is the townland of Newbury. I would like to introduce Pat Mulcahy from Boyne, who has just arrived, and the three of us were very much involved in a project commissioned by IRD Duhallow to record all the names and the inscriptions and the headstones in the old graveyards in the Duhallow area, and we took on the job of doing this one. So we spent a full year coming down here one morning a week doing it, and then we spent another year sort of revising it and checking it to make sure that everything was right. And it was very difficult to read the inscriptions because a lot of them were faded. They were there for hundreds of years and very neglected. Then we began to find headstones that we never knew existed. They were buried flat stones on the ground and covered with debris, and we unearthed about 50, I suppose. Lads, weren't it?
Yeah,
about 50.
50,
yeah. That we didn't know existed at all. So we had a job of work. We had to probe the whole graveyard then to make sure that every headstone was actually captured. Octra Archaeological Services were the people that John Tierney's company did the training with us. We spent a couple of weeks going around in different graveyards around Duhallow, being shown how to look after old historic graveyards because they're recognised as archaeological sites once they're over 200 years old. So we had to be very careful what we could do. We could do no repairs of any description, only just do recordings, clean up, take off the briars, bushes, ivy, all that sort of thing. So that's how we got involved in it. So Newbury is not an Irish name and not an origin of Irish, obviously. It came from a place called Newbury in England, and when the Newmans acquired 1,500 acres of land and Dromahane Castle after the Cromwell conquest, they created a new townland here, called it Newbury, in honour of their ancestors who were killed at the first battle of Newbury. I think it was around 1643 during the English Civil War, and that's where the name came when they created New. And that was Newbury Manor. The estate was upgraded to a manor status, which meant that they could have a judge, a jail, a court, could administer punishment. And right there on that pier, just next to the sign, they put up a whipping post and had stocks there where they could administer justice of the day, which is a few whips, and they were able to have a jail, and they had a courthouse. Now a lot of the courts were held in the Protestant school in Scarra, which would be close to Glantane village. It's about 3 miles, I suppose, from here, Jerry, to be about 3 miles or so, yeah.
Dromahane.
And that's where the name Newbury came from. I was talking about St. Shannock, 550 over where Longfield's Bridge is, roughly at Arnicalla. And we have little information then about St. Shannock until roughly the time of the Normans coming here. The Normans came in 1169, and we have in the Pipe Roll of Clyne a description of where John de Cogan, one of the Norman knights, was appointed as not caretaker, but I suppose as a sponsor of Kilshannig parish. So Kilshannig parish was there somewhere around the 1200s. Now, the parish system was brought in to Ireland in 1111 at the Synod of Clanbrassil, and at that synod there were more or less following what has happened all over Europe, France, England, everywhere, where the parish system was replacing the monastic system. Of course, there was a lot of opposition because the monastic system was controlled by the local chieftains of the clans, and they weren't going to give up their privileges that easy. But when the Normans came, the Pope was delighted in one sense that the Normans were able to impose the parish system. So we reckon that Kilshannig was one of the first parishes in the Diocese of Clyne, because it was 1242. In 1242, John de Cogan, the Norman knight, was given a sort of sponsorship, basically, and I suppose a certain amount of control over Kilshannig parish, along with other parishes as well. And so that's how we know that there was a parish here, and it was known as Kilshannig parish, after St. Shannock. And then in 1581 is the next big date, after King Henry VIII decided that he was the head of the church in England and Ireland, and he introduced the established church with himself as head. And the Catholic priest here was deposed, sacked, got rid of, and a man was put in his place who recognised the king as head of the church. And he was the first member of the established church of England and Ireland to be installed in Kilshannig. So that was the end of, we said, the old Catholic style. Now, it was the Reformation really afterwards that Protestantism came in and all the rest of it, but the established church came in 1581. So this place then became, after from 500 to, you could say, 1600, that's 5 to 15, that's 1,000 years, 1,100 years. It was not this place now, but the general area was Catholic. And then it became sort of 400 years of more or less Church of Ireland property, and it was eventually taken over in the Reformation. And the Catholic churches were suppressed, the priests were got rid of. There was nothing happening for 200 years practically in the parish from the Catholic point of view, until 1821, when in the Glantane village the Catholics built the first church after more or less the penal times. Now, it was a little bit before Catholic emancipation of 1829, but they built a little church. And now, what do we call the parish? Kilshannig was a Protestant parish, so they decided to call the parish Glantane parish, or Glantane parish. And that's, the two parishes are identical in area. The Kilshannig Protestant parish and our Church of Ireland, and Glantane Catholic parish. So that's how all that happened. So